If you watch Chris D'Elia and he has this beautiful stand-up and he's like, I did all this so I could have bigger muscles. Guilty. That was me. Hey guys, Alexa here, helping you to make sense out of spirituality and health related. Today we're going to be talking about the nervous system, overtraining, stress, fatigue, and relaxation. So if I'm being honest, I just got out of jiu-jitsu. It's kind of late. I didn't have anything prepped for this video, but I felt like it's a really important topic and I wanted to share some of my experience and some of my thoughts on it. So without further ado, here we go. It is no surprise that a large majority of the American population probably could use more exercise. There are so many amazing benefits to exercise, including stress reduction, better physical fitness overall, better lung capacity, reducing the chances of sarcopenia, helping to keep your blood sugars regulated, yada, 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 yada. The list goes on. We know exercise is great for the human body. When is it too much though? In my own experience, with a lot of the personal stressors that I have dealt with, including celiac disease and or other autoimmune diseases, as well as overtraining, there is a point when the stress that comes with exercise, and I'm not saying this is the case for everyone, but there's a point when it can outweigh the benefits. And I wanted to just sort of share a little bit about my story of how I personally have overcome overtraining in the past, how I kind of gauge my red flags as well as yellow flags, what to do when those start popping up, and just overall how to find a little bit more balance, because at the end of the day, everyone is different, everyone is unique, and what works for me may not work for you, what works for you may not work for me, but sometimes it may. And hopefully in sharing this, it can give you a better idea of how to better assess and gauge where you're at, and recognizing that your maximum level of output might be different from someone else's, and that's completely okay and normal. But it's really important to address that part of the equation. So let's talk about physiology first. Your autonomic nervous system is what controls your stress response. There are two primary factors of the autonomic nervous system, and they are the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. Parasympathetic nervous system, or PNS, is often associated with things like rest and digest. It's the state that your body goes into upon relaxation. Generally speaking, humans are supposed to spend a majority of their life in the parasympathetic nervous system. This can be regulated really easily by having mindful breathing or breathing tactics, meditation, yoga, and in a lot of ways, exercise can help someone's norm be based more in the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system, on the other hand, is designed to be the fight or flight response that humans have. So back in the day, if we're being chased by a tiger, this is a system that helps to keep us alive. I'm sorry, my cat's just going crazy right now and I can't do anything about it. When the sympathetic nervous system is activated, pupils are dilated, digestion stops, and the body gets ready to flee a potential predator or fight to the death. Humans have evolved really well in a lot of ways, but not when it comes to this system, because nowadays, a simple stressor in life, such as sitting in traffic, can still trigger that same response if we're not careful. So your body responds to sitting in traffic as if you're being chased by a tiger. It is not healthy for us to feel like we're being chased by a tiger 24/7. That will deplete us of a lot of our energy sources, as well as create an imbalance and cause an unnecessary amount of stress on our system physiologically. Now, how does this tie into exercise? Exercise is, by definition, a stressor. When you're exercising, you are stressing your body, you are stressing the muscles. You are tearing them down so that they can rebuild, and as they are rebuilding, they are preparing for the next event wherein they're going to be torn down, so they add a little bit more muscle to be better ready for the next time an episode like this is going to happen. In the long term, small amounts of stressors are great. This is not an inherently harmful thing for your body. It's actually an inherently wonderful thing for your body. With that being said, if you have teardown going on 24/7 from a bunch of different reasons, that's when you can get to a state of overtraining. And this is what I think is extremely important to talk about and to recognize, that sometimes the stress I have in my life and the stress you have in your life look very different. And we could do the exact same workout, we could eat the exact same meals for the day, we could even do the same breathing tactics for the day, but it's still going to look very different how I may respond to that stressor versus how you may respond to that stressor. And in some ways, it may be overtraining for one party and not for another. And this doesn't necessarily have to do with being in or out of shape. You can be in extremely good shape and still be at a point where your body doesn't function well enough to recover properly from a standard workout. And let's say maybe 6 months ago you didn't have a certain stressor present in your life, but now that stressor is there, and your capacity to deal with something like a workout of a certain level may be compromised. I'll give you a personal anecdote. When I was in college, after I had been diagnosed with celiac disease, my body was in fight or flight mode all the time. I was training twice a day. I was waking up super early. I was working 3 jobs, and I was also a full-time student in college. I had horrible digestion. I was still having flare-ups regularly, so my body was constantly attacking itself. And the workouts that I was doing, while I did love and enjoy them, ultimately they were really causing a lot more damage than they were good at that point, because my body had so much stress in so many different ways, not just emotional stress, but physical stress. It is physically so taxing to have an autoimmune flare-up and to continue to train and to try to just bulldoze through it while it's, great that I had a go-getter attitude, was really working against me in the long run, because I wasn't giving my body what it truly needed, which was the chance to repair the things that it couldn't even repair because I was so busy breaking down other things that I wanted it to focus on repairing instead. Like, I don't know, muscles, so that I could have bigger muscles. If you watch Chris D'Elia and he has this beautiful stand-up and he's like, I did all this so I could have bigger muscles. Guilty, that was me. So a few things that I started doing to help myself stay out of the trap of overtraining. I think the most important one was to just check in. And I did this, I actually wrote it out, so I held myself very accountable. I would check in the morning, first thing, before working out, during a workout, after workout, and when I went to bed. And that sounds like a lot, but you really don't have to do a lot. And you don't even have to write it if that's too much for you. So what I would do is check in with, scale of 1 to 10, how is my energy? Do I feel like I can make it through the day? Or do I feel like I need an adrenaline dump? Do I need to listen to some kind of pump up music or drink caffeine or have a stimulant? Or do I need something external to charge me so that I can do things? Or do I feel like I have enough internal energy to the point where I could listen to, country music and still get a workout in? So really being able to define with, do I need to hype myself up to do any kind of movement? Personally, that was a pretty big telltale. The second telltale that I think was really powerful was noticing how I felt before, during, and after a workout. And one of the biggest components that I would encourage everyone to be really mindful of is that exercise is not meant to be easy. And while I think it's fun, not everyone thinks it's fun. So you have to keep in mind that there is a certain level of discomfort that is normal and comes with exercise. With that being said, 10 times out of 10, if I noticed that I felt worse after a workout than when I had started, I knew that I was going down a path of overtraining. Doesn't mean that I shouldn't have worked out that day. It might have just meant maybe I shouldn't have done cardio, or maybe I should have gone with lighter weights and higher reps, or maybe I should have done a different style, or I should have done yoga, or I should have done more time stretching, or I should have focused more on my breathing. Typically when you're exercising, you should be breathing in through your nose and exhaling out through the mouth. But if you're doing constant mouth breathing where it's just not the best for your autonomic nervous system, because it does signal to your brain a certain level of panic. Also, there was a point when I felt like my endorphins weren't working. Like, I used to be a runner, and without a doubt, I would go for runs and I would feel great after. And when I was in a state of being pretty severely overtrained, I noticed that I wasn't even getting that endorphins. I wasn't even getting that rush or that high after working out. I literally just would work out and feel like I wanted to curl up in a ball and go to sleep. And I didn't have the energy to sustain anything during the day after that. So I would plan my workouts and know I'm gonna crash right afterwards. And again, that's not something that I really recommend doing, because at the end of the day, it really was just depleting my system way more than I needed to be. And then finally, at the end of the day, I did also notice that when I was severely overtrained, I actually had quite a bit of insomnia, because my body was so thrown off of its standard cycle, and it was in such a high state of stress that even when I was ready to go to bed and I knew I was exhausted and I was tired, my body, due to that stress response, still wasn't letting me fall asleep completely, and it was keeping me up pretty late. And I think that, of course, having poor digestion was a factor in that, as well as, homework and school and all kinds of other things. So I know it wasn't the only thing, but I do recognize that every single time in my life, and there's been a few different times when I feel like I have overstressed my body by working out, insomnia is one of the first things that happens to me and is a telltale sign. A couple of other things that you may notice in your own experience, and I have also noticed these from time to time, not as consistently as some of the ones that I've mentioned, but if you notice that you're dealing with these a lot, brain fog, inability to recover from your workouts, being extremely sore all the time, not feeling like you have the motivation to do standard day-to-day things, not feeling like you have the motivation to do any kind of movement outside of exercise. Like if you say, I'm too tired to go for a hike, I'm too tired to go for a walk, I'm too tired to do any of that because I trained this morning and I'm just done. Like feeling unable to live life because your training is just zapping the shit out of you. That could be an indicator that you might be pushing it a little bit too hard. Feeling insatiably hungry all the time, and also feeling mood swings or huge imbalances with your mood in general. I'm not gonna go into the nutritional side of things right now, but you do have to make sure that you are refueling properly, whatever that looks like for you, and that can differ from person to person. But if you are not getting enough fuel to help reboot your system, again, you're not doing yourself any favors, and I highly, highly encourage you to make sure that you're taking time to get that kind of stuff taken care of as well. So just keep in mind that training does stimulate the sympathetic nervous system. If you are not doing something to combat that, if you are not doing meditative practices, breathing, yoga, stretching, something to calm your nervous system down throughout the day, if you're constantly in that fight or flight state, exercise may come naturally in some respect because you're already kind of in that mode, but just keep in mind that there are some potential dangers with exercising that frequently and not giving your body the time it needs to rest, and also not giving it the balance that it needs. Because as noted, there's no problem with activating the sympathetic nervous system. In fact, for people who can't physically activate the sympathetic nervous system response, that's actually potentially a bad sign that they have just completely drained all of their stress reserves and they have nothing left. Like that would be the kind of person where if they were getting chased by a tiger in real life, their body, their mind physiologically would just be like, oh, well, okay. And that's not necessarily healthy either. So to have a stress response is not a bad thing. You just want to make sure that you're monitoring how frequently it's being activated, and also monitoring what you're doing to make sure that it's not overtaking your life, and also to make sure that you are mindful and cognizant of everything else that's going on around you, whether you have family issues, financial stress, insomnia, or you're not sleeping for other reasons, anxiety, depression, etc. Keep in mind all those other kinds of stressors and how those can also factor into the stress of working out. And then make sure that you are doing your part to stay situationally mindful and recognize that some weeks are going to be harder than others, some weeks will be longer than others, some weeks you can work out more, some weeks you really just need to take some time to rest, and find a way to be okay with listening to your body and what it's signaling to you. Because I guarantee you, if you're walking out of all your workouts feeling better than when you walked in, that's probably a good sign. But if you're walking out of all your workouts feeling like you might want to take a minute to listen to that. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate your time. Please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more of my content. I talk about everything from health and fitness to spirituality. If you have questions, do not hesitate to reach out. Really appreciate your time. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at AlexaB Health Architect, and I will see you guys soon. Thanks. Cheers.